With over 3,000 individuals being recruited and over 900 open investigations against homegrown violent extremists, radicalization of young adults is one of the most serious public safety threats we face in this country. And there are various ways in which research and academics and the media describe the scope of the threat of violent extremism. And it ranges from our right-wing militia groups or lone wolf shooters, and then it stretches all the way across, of course, to those that are motivated by deviant interpretations of Islam, anywhere from ISIS, al-qaeda, Boko Haram. And so, although more than half of the deaths from terrorism in the United States have occurred at the hands of non-Muslim terrorists, the national and international focus is on groups like ISIS. And the consequences of each terrorist attack are not measured just by the number of deaths. It also has severe repercussions on our country economically and on the social cohesion of our communities. Just think about the rise of xenophobic attacks against Muslims, especially in the recent months. Our guest speakers today, Christian Picciolini and Mubin Sheikh, which will share their personal stories of how they were influenced personally by different violent extremist movements, and what are the warning signs to look for someone you know may be radicalizing, and then most importantly, the avenues you have to intervene.
What is it that could have been offered to you, if anything, to get you to change your mind and say no before you said yes? And just as importantly, who is it, or who are those who could have made that offer that would have made a difference?
I think the best weapon against violent extremism is this room, is the community. Because, law enforcement, their job is to arrest people and to investigate crimes. Academics and researchers, their job is to understand the evidence. The community's job is to be a community. And that means everybody in the community, not just certain groups of people or, not including the marginalized folks. De-radicalization or stopping extremism in general, or from radicalizing in general, starts in the community. It starts with the parents, it starts with the schools. And to just address the gentleman's comment, where we're almost victim shaming people for being bullied. They feel like they need to go eat in bathrooms, or, they're committing suicide. When in reality, what we really need to do to fix the problem is to get to the source of the problem. And those are the people who are committing these acts, these bullies, the schools who aren't teaching empathy, and parents who maybe aren't there for their children or are so detached from who they are. So, my greatest advice is, these are the people who really stop extremism from happening. I think we have a lot of work to do. And I think it starts in the community. So the community can offer the greatest help to kids who are, going down that path.
Can I ask, when you say community also, can you help explain what that means? Is that like a loving adult? Is
Sure.
it like a trusting adult that lends a hand when they see a troubled child,
Right.
or an emotional child?
The Word has probably one of the greatest community intervention programs that I've seen, and I would only add one thing to that. So when I say community, I mean teachers, I mean parents, I mean friends, I mean faith leaders, anybody who has access to help somebody else in the community. And I would also include formers, people who are like Mubin and I, who have been there, who understand what got us into these groups and also what got us out of these groups.
You mentioned the community, and I want to just say something about the community. I immigrated here 45 years ago. I'm originally from Egypt. I have 3 children and 15 grandchildren. So when I came here and people used to say community, and I look at them, what is community? What are you talking about? Community to me is my mom, my dad, my uncle, my sister, my brother. So it is my immediate family. So the word community here means your community, your PTA, your Chamber of Commerce, your all those associations and organizations, that is your community. So what I'm trying to say by that is get involved in your community. I'm talking now to my fellow here, my friends here who are from, the Muslim community. Because I can't tell you how much I had changed people's mind by getting involved with my PTA, by getting involved with churches, I always say education is your passport into integration. So if we want to integrate, we must educate. And I'll end with that.
Hate comes from fear of not knowing something. So when I see a snake, I hate snakes. I hate snakes. So when I see a snake, I want to kill it, right? I don't understand snakes. I don't know what's poisonous, what's not. But there are people who handle snakes and they're, snake whatever, and they're not scared of snakes because they understand them. So they don't fear them. So for me, ignorance really comes from fear. And fear and ignorance manifest as hate, and hate manifests as violence. So I think education, you were very right, education really is the big problem solver. If we all got to know each other on a personal level, I suspect it would be hard for us to hate each other.
I think it's very important for the interfaith approach. It's very, very important. Whether it's to partner up Muslim kids with Christian kids with Jewish kids and have all of them support each other. I always say, one God, one love. And let them feel that they are a part of a greater community. It's not just Muslims by themselves. And especially in a day and age where religion itself is under attack and the belief in God is under attack. I think enlarging that community, enlarging the community for that Muslim to feel that they're a part of will be also quite helpful. So,
my family was my best resource for me. So the people who, despite all the evil stuff that I had done, who stuck by me and realized that was, a misguided part of my life and not who I really was. And that they stuck by me. That was my biggest resource, and my children. I became a dad. So I now had something to love instead of something to fear. And those two things were probably the two most important resources or tools that I had to foster me through the change. And if it wasn't for that, I don't know that anybody else would have given me the chance.
When we help build upon the strengths of the wider community, we're building sustainable solutions. So this includes support groups addressing domestic violence or stress management. We have youth groups that include our Global Citizen Forum that provides youth with leadership development skills, communication skills, conflict mediation skills, internet safety, personal wellness skills, and more. If there are issues that our kids are passionate about, we want to make sure they have the skills to address these issues in constructive, meaningful ways. Every person that we train becomes a part of the community support that youth need to thrive. They become part of a network of positive people, building positive messages of inclusion and acceptance.
It is also important to note that those of you that may not have read the recent report from GW, from George Washington Center on Extremism, 42% of those arrested for ISIS-related crimes are converts. So that means they grew up in a house that did not practice Islam. And what that tells us is that there's no family that's immune from the radicalization threat. And therefore, the solution must lie in an aware and an engaged citizenry who can intervene, hopefully, in the lives of vulnerable individuals before they choose a life of crime or violence. Your dedication to learning about what motivates individuals to join such groups and the resources we have to intervene, especially on Super Bowl Sunday, gives me hope that together we're building a safer and more resilient community.